Good friends, Doc South here. I've got another thrilling tale of Chester, New Jersey. Back, in the days of my youth, I lived in Chester from about 1956, and don't live there right now, but I'm there a lot, and on and off have very much enjoyed that town. My folks lived there for quite some time, and well, all in all, it's a town. If I were to have a hometown, I guess it would be Chester. Get right down to it. The and although I didn't live there my whole life, but a good part of it, and a lovely town. Always liked it, and I remember as a kid. Oh, this had to be the late 50s, early 60s. I can't give you an exact date, and it's not that important. But my friends and I are riding our bikes, marauding through town, a little of this, a little of that, maybe getting ourselves a soda. Maybe there was someone had a sale on hamburgers, I don't know, or there was something going on out in the woods we could go do, I don't know. But we were riding around, and again on our bikes, and there we were down near the intersection of Route 206 and Route 24. That'd be sort of on the west end of the village. We were heading off. Actually, we decided we were going to maybe head off down a little bit west there on Route 24, and well, we went past this big old Sunoco station that used to be there. I always thought it kind of looked like a castle. Yeah, it had like twin towers coming out of it, and you could almost say and there was Larison's on the other side of the highway there, and along Route 24 on the, I guess you'd call that the northwest corner. And we're riding Route 24 to be the road off to Long Valley, and we're tooling along there. Now back then, there was there was at across from Larison's there was a coal yard. There was a fella had I can't think of his name. My folks used to use him to buy coal for the coal burning stove we had in the the coal burning boiler we had in the at the house. And he'd deliver a dump truck load periodically, and I guess he sold to other people. He had a coal yard. There was also a lumber yard. I think it was Pickering's lumber yard was in that neck of the woods. There was no mall, not that I recall. No, the mall came later, a number of years later, and so it was mostly bushes, brambles, that kind of thing. Coal yard, lumber yard, and us. Because we stopped dead in our tracks. Now speaking of tracks, there was a rail service that came up from Long Valley. There was a main line. I don't know the name of the line, what railroad. I'm thinking Jersey Central probably. That went from High Bridge into Dover, and it ran along the valley that was Long Valley. Okay, and they periodically a freight train would come up, a very short freight train, a car or two long, and they drop off a load of coal, a hopper full of coal, or some box car of lumber for Pickering's and supplies, I guess, and that's how it got delivered, and that was fine. Usually I think that train would come usually Thursday night. You'd hear it kind of blowing its whistle and stuff. It was like a diesel, and but so it was nothing new for us to see a box car sitting there, but this time, man, we hit the brakes on our bikes and just came to a skidding stop and just were like this, like that. There was a doggone steam locomotive parked where the box cars used to be. We're looking at that. I can remember we said, "Oh, look." And we did. What is this? I said, well, that's a steam locomotive. You guys know that. Yeah, we know that. God, South, what, you think we're dumb? Oh, what's it doing here, though? I said, I don't know, but it sure is beautiful. I think it had a coal tender on it. Yeah, it had the tender. And this was a fairly good-sized steam locomotive. This one would have probably pulled passenger at one time or another. And well, of course, we parked our bikes, leaned them up against the coal shanties, and marched right through the weeds and started climbing around on the darn thing. Well, we didn't see anyone around. No one told us no. If they did, we would have just come another time because this was just too much. We're all over that hopper, the coal tender, and looking at it, man, hey, watch out. Don't go jumping. There's not enough coal in this thing. You fall into this, man, you'll never get out. If it was full of coal, you could climb on it. Yeah, they said. Then all of a sudden, since I lived near a railroad before I moved to Chester, I was the expert. I said, man, we could probably go in the cab here. We just got to climb up. Meanwhile, one of my friends is already on top of the darn thing. He's walking along near the steam bell. Dome, the steam dome. We're ringing the bell, hauling on the steam whistle cord, and of course opening up the boiler door to look inside there. Hey, look, it's still a little warm. Whoa! I think it might have just been the sun. I think the freight train pulled the thing up. I don't think it came on its own power. Then again, I remember talking about it later at supper with my father. He says, I thought I heard a steam whistle last night. He said, didn't you hear it? I said, I did, but I just thought I didn't think much of it. I thought maybe it was new first aid siren or something. He says, I don't know. So maybe it did come up on its own power. I don't know. It would have been quite a haul pulling it. And they didn't use the biggest, freight engines to haul these things. But we're all over it. Oh, man. And, eventually we had to go, find some other stuff to do. Sort of ran out of things. But every now and then we just go take a look at it. But that night, the night we first saw it, I was at the supper table, again, like you heard, and I was talking with my father. And I said, what do you think that's all about, a steam train here in town? He says, well, I don't know. He says, did look pretty neat. And he said, I drove by it too. I said, you climb up in it? He says, no, you're not supposed to climb up. You guys didn't climb up in it, did you? No, sir, no. Not us. He says, I think you did. How come your hands are so sooty? Oh, okay, we did. He says, well, I don't blame you. I would have too if I was a kid. And so at least you told the truth, finally. Yeah. I said, well, yeah. And he said, I heard some guy's he wants to evidently get some passenger cars, and then they'll evidently, they'll run rides from Chester down to High Bridge, or maybe Flemington, Califon, I don't know, Clinton perhaps. And we're sitting there thinking, boy, this is going to be great. Holy moly. And I'm thinking, man, this is the best thing I ever heard. I said, do you think would they hire me to maybe be a conductor or something? You got to be a little older to be a conductor. He said, you could probably clean the thing. I said, boy, I'd do that. That'd be cool. And anyway, he said, yeah, I don't know. He says that the town's talking about not letting it happen. That's what I heard. They're not letting, they're kind of worried, the thing might blow up or bring too many people to town. I said, well, what's wrong with bringing people to town? Yeah, the steam engine ain't going to blow up. Well, sometimes they do. I said, yeah, but boy, this one looked pretty strong. He said, well, I don't know. We're going to have to just see what the town council says. I said, well, anyway, long story short, the town council did, I guess, vote no on it for whatever reason. I honestly, they could have told me they were going to use the train to run me over. And I would have said, okay, I still want to see that train running. I was in favor. I would have voted yes. I would have. And so the guy left. Eventually one day he was up there, he was working on it. We'd go see him now and then. He'd be fixing the train, putting a tube in it or something, steam tube, and oiling it and things. And that's what he wanted to do. Like I said, wanted to run from Chester to, I believe, Clinton. I think that would have been a good thing. That would have been a good thing. You figure people, shoppers in Chester could have hopped that train, taken a beautiful ride down to Long Valley. There would have been shops there waiting for them. Middle Valley would have been kind of cool. There are all sorts of farmers. They could have stopped and bought farm produce, right? Right. Into High Bridge. High Bridge, wonderful towns, shops there in High Bridge, and then eventually into Clinton. I think they could get to Clinton from there. And then, gosh, I think from there, if you can get to Clinton, I think there's a line takes you down to Flemington. Flemington, again, look at all the shops. And eventually into Lambertville, and then perhaps New Hope. Yeah, along the Delaware and all. Oh my God, what a beautiful ride that would have been. And yeah. Well, it turns out the guy parked the thing in Flemington. In Flemington, I guess, saw a good thing and said, yeah, put it up. Flemington to Lambertville. That's the Black River and Western Railroad. I don't know if it's the same locomotive I saw as a kid. I imagine if they maintained it, it could be. It could be. And no, I didn't carve my initials in it anywhere. I scratched my initials in it. And, but that, yeah. So it would have been, I think, a pretty cool thing nowadays. Maybe back then in the late 50s, early 60s, there wasn't much going on. Perhaps it would have been in the way. I don't know. That you can only guess. But doggone if that weren't some train. Yeah. And I guess does okay. I know sometimes I'm riding down Route 202 below Flemington, and you'll hear the thing hooting now and then. I say, well, doggone, that could have been something I heard every day up in Chester. But well, it didn't happen. But doggone, huh? Yeah, doggone. That was all right. And a neat little train. There was actually a fair amount of railroading going on through Chester. I think one of Sandy's relatives, my wife Sandy's relatives, was a conductor, I think. And one way or another, they could get from Chester to Dover. I think they had to get down along and run along the Black River Valley, or perhaps they took it into Long Valley, and then there would have been a fairly good line that would take them into Dover by way of Succossena and all. And evidently he worked for the railroad quite a while. Anyway, enough said. It's just another tale of, Chester, the home of my youth. I'll see you later, friends. God bless.